All right, great. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the December 9th Continuum of Care meeting. Michelle always used to read the mission statement. I haven't done that the last couple of times, but I kind of want to go over that. That the Continuum of Care is comprised of public and private agencies, along with community residents, including homeless and formerly homeless individuals. The CoC was designed to assess the need for homeless and affordable housing services and to develop and implement a continuum of care plan for the region on behalf of individuals and families who are currently living in homelessness or at risk of becoming homelessness. The reason I wanted to read that today is kind of an opening comment is I think we should all be very proud of the work that has happened this year, especially in the midst of this pandemic. The way that the county, the individual service providers, private industry have all stepped up to really make sure that our most vulnerable homeless people and residents have been protected. And I think we should be very proud in Riverside County of the really low level of infection amongst our homeless individuals, but more importantly, the programs that have been implemented from Project Room Key, now to Project Home Key, to the food distribution, and then go on and on and on. And we just should all be very proud because it's been everyone that participates in the CoC that does that. I say that too because I think we all realize this is probably going to get even worse. Not just the pandemic, but the fallout, economic fallout. And our work is going to become even more critical as we move into 2021. I am really pleased and thankful for everyone that participates in the CoC as well as the Board of Governance, because I think we're on the right track. And I think we owe our staff a huge round of applause and the leadership of Heidi and Carrie and Tanya in the department on where we're moving. So with that being said, I'm also going to dispense with the regular introductions. One, because we have a very meaty agenda, and I'd rather spend that time focusing on agenda items and discussion. Two is that we've all been able to place our names and organizations within the chat box. And so, again, really kind of want to focus this meeting on how we solve our problem that we're all working on. So with that being said, if you have not typed your name and organization in the chat box, please do so for Melanie's sake. Also, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Additionally, this is being recorded, so if you have an issue with that, you can sign off. And then additionally, too, is as we get to either public comments or comments on agenda items, please use the raise your hand function, and I will monitor that to call on people. So with that being said, Melanie, are you doing the roll call?
Yes, let me put that up. I'm trying to mark people off as they come on. Are you able to see the attendance here?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna, just a quick announcement. We hear a lot of comments about staff changes during meetings. So we do wanna make sure that we are getting the primary and secondary for each agency updated because we realize we're not being notified each time you do have staff changeover. And we're getting a lot of participation in our meetings, and we want to continue to have that happen. We just want to make sure that we're getting the correct representation noted for the attendance. So I'm going to be sending out a new representative letter to agencies. So if you can please just update and make sure that we have the most current. Some of those I've received, I've put on here. Just wanted to add that note as we go on. Brad West, are you here?
Yes, yes, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Eric Loomis? Karen, I noted you. Eva, I noted. Linda Krupa?
Thank you.
Edna, I noted you're here. Myra, are you here? Rebecca Rivera? Michelle, I noticed you're here. Tyler from CityNet? Do we have anyone here from City of Temecula?
It's on the video. Let me see. I'm not logging in. I don't want to.
Okay. Tom, I noted that you're here. Jim Bullis, Kimberly from CVRM.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Cindy,
It's Brianna from the Community Health Association, so that will need to be changed over.
okay.
It's Brianna Eason.
We need to make sure we have a new letter. So again,
I
those will be
believe
going.
that Cindy already did all of that with you, but I will get the documentation from her and I can send that over to you after this.
Okay, I'll send out the letter as a group email out to the CoC to give everyone the opportunity to adjust any changes for their primary rep or their secondary, just to make sure that we have the most current staffing updated here as your representative, because you have to have one of your primary or your secondary in order for your attendance to be counted. So we want to make sure we're accurately reflecting who's attending the meetings and who you want as your representative for your agency.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Margaret, are you here? I've seen Linda's here. Okay, Daniel from Help from Future Leaders. Dee McFadden. Becky,
Yes, I'm here.
thank you. Karen,
Yes, I'm here.
thank you. Denise, I noted you're here. Linda Barak. David from Mercy House. Jackie, did I see you're on?
Yes, good morning. I'm here.
Kathy, Operation Safe House. Casey, are you here? I did note, Leonard, that you're here though. Stefan, I've got you noted. Alicia, are you here?
Casey's here too.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Alicia, are you here? All right, I did know Joe was here in the hot team. Marcus Cannon,
Present.
thank you. Anyone new from Safe House of the Desert? Okay, Angelina? Angelina Co, Shelter from the Storm? And let me remind everyone, if you're not speaking, can you please mute yourself so we're not getting any background noises? Monica from SWAG? Greg from Step Up? And Oscar from the VA?
Greg from Step Up is not on, but I am here to here in his stead.
And your name?
Albert Rivera.
Okay. Oscar from the VA, Loma Linda? It looks like we might be one shy. No. Hold on.
One shy of a quorum.
We got it.
Okay.
We've got our quorum.
Whew, thank God. Alrighty. All right, thank you, Melanie, very much.
You're welcome.
And now we'll move to approval of the minutes. Everybody should have gotten those in their packet. There's any corrections or questions? Raise your hand. Bring you all up again. And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion.
And who made the motion, please?
Sorry, Jim Bolas.
Yeah, Jim. Thanks, Jim.
I'll second it. Kimberly, see that? Or from Coachella Valley Rescue Mission.
Thank Kimberly.
Is that Kim?
Yeah, Kimberly from CVRM.
Okay.
Any
And now I'm going to go through roll call.
Yep, then let me call it if any discussion at all yet, Melanie. So, and I don't see any hands raised, so go ahead and do the roll call.
Okay. Brad West,
You know, I'm actually not a voting member of the CoC.
okay. I had you down under Tiffany as a voting member. Karen Roper,
Yes.
Eva,
Aye.
okay. Edna, City of Menifee, Michelle Davis,
Yes.
Tom Cox,
Yes.
Jim Bolles,
Yes.
Kimberly from CBRM,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Linda Salas,
Yes.
Becky Ruiz, Becky from Jewish Families, all right. Karen Younglow,
Yes.
Denise Marshall,
Yes.
Jackie
Yes.
Portilla,
Yes.
Casey Jackson, thank you, Casey. I see it in the
Casey,
chat box.
Yeah, and did you see Edna from Menifee?
I did. I noted that one as well.
Thanks, Melanie.
Stefan McPeace,
Yes.
Joe Laura,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Alberta, I'm sorry, Albert,
Yes.
thank you. Cordell,
Yes.
Nicole, US Vets,
Starks Murray, yeah, I know we had a few Nicoles. Yes.
sorry, and Susan Larkin.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
All right, thank you, Melanie. We'll move on to public comments. So anyone wishing to comment on an agenda item, on an agenda item or any item not listed on the agenda may submit such comments either by email or we'll take public comment now. I prefer for agenda items that we take the comments as we deal with the agenda items. So if there's any public comments on non-agenda items, I would take those now.
Greg, it's Karen Roper. I have a comment. Is it okay?
Yep, go right ahead, and then I'll go to Michelle.
Okay. I wanted to let everybody know, and I'll paste the link. I'm excited to report that there was a really neat article in the Press Enterprise about the City of Corona's homeless strategic plan, and it highlights a family that was sleeping on the streets of Corona, and the Isabella, the female, and they were so happy to share their story. She was 7 months pregnant when our CityNet outreach team connected with them, and we got them connected to our motel shelter program, which opened in January before the pandemic hit. And it's just a beautiful story of their transformation, beautiful pictures of the family. The baby is doing well. And it talks about what our city council has done in terms of approving and allocating resources. So I will paste it in there for you guys. It's a beautiful picture of all the work that we all do to transform lives in the Inland Empire. So I'm just so excited to share that with all of you guys. Thank you.
Great, thank you,
Sorry,
Karen.
I was trying to share and it
Yeah,
hit me up and add to the membership.
reached your subscription limit. So, Michelle, did you have a comment?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I wasn't able to get my CES Oversight Committee report in on time, so I just want to give an update at the last meeting as I have to jump off in a little bit. At the last coordinated entry system, Susan Larkin brought up a critical issue, which was our homeless prevention programs that are being funded under the Emergency Solutions Grants. We are required to go through the coordinated entry system. So at that meeting, we were able to resolve where all the ESG providers, our grantees, will submit to Home Connect a list of all the subrecipients that will be operating those programs, so that Home Connect can then refer those calls that they receive for homeless prevention to those agencies, who will pre-screen the individuals. First, they'll try diversion. If that doesn't work, then they will pre-screen them. If they're eligible, they'll reach back out to Home Connection to get a referral to the program, so that we can be in compliance with our federal regulations. So I want to thank Home Connect, Behavioral Health, and Susan Larkin. And I know Sterling's been having to address this issue as well with her ESG grant. So just want to thank you guys, and that will be the new process. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. Melanie, did you see that Angelina Co is on now too?
You're muted, Mel.
You're muted, but I saw you nod, so that's fine. All right, Hafsa.
Yes, hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. Good morning, Hafsa.
Okay, hi, good morning. Sorry, I'm on the road and I'm going to try to stay on as much as possible myself. I too just have a public comment. Karen, so happy to hear the story on Press Enterprise for you guys. Kudos, kudos. We also had an article on Press Enterprise, I don't know if everyone saw, about a week and a half ago, and it was regarding the Santa Ana River bottom. And it essentially said that the $1.4 million that we went ahead and took to our Budget Engagement Commission and City Council for the Santa Ana River bottom to address homelessness and the fires was actually not approved. But I do want to go ahead and let the Continuum know that the City of Riverside is working very, very hard through the leadership of our council member Edwards to ensure that there is an encampment response at the Santa Ana River bottom. And I really want to thank the county. I want to thank Carrie and Tanya and Heidi and the team, because part of the plan that we took to our council was a 5-step plan that I've integrated with the MAP home as well, which is data driven. Number 2, outreach with supportive services. Number 3, shelter. Number 4, permanent housing. And number 5, safety. And with the permanent housing comes the fact that the county and Heidi's team was able to also provide some rental assistance. So while this was not approved, our council and our Councilmember Edwards is working really, really hard with Supervisor Spiegel's office to make sure that there is a response, and also want to thank Supervisor Spiegel's office on the continued work. So more to come with that, but just informing the Continuum of Care that we are working diligently and collaboratively on this regional response. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Hafsa. Good job. And I do not see any further hands raised for public comments, so we will move on to item 4, old business. A is the 2021 point in time count planning, and Laura, you're on.
Thank you so much, Greg. Good morning to everybody. I would like to provide the most current update regarding the 2021 homeless point in time count. First, I want to remind you that the homeless count includes a sheltered and an unsheltered count. And the sheltered count will be conducted as it has in previous years. We will be able to collect PIC count numbers via the sheltered count. The unsheltered count is where we're having to be patient as we determine the safest course to take to conduct the count in January. We are scheduled to have our 3rd community planning meeting tomorrow, December the 10th. And I want to make sure that all the CoC membership knows about these meetings. The membership has been included in the invitations we're sending out for these weekly planning meetings. So please let me know if you are not receiving these invitations so that I can make sure your contact information is updated on our list and you're able to attend if you're able to. At the last community planning meeting, staff made a recommendation to focus on planning for a head count only count. So as you can see on the slide, HUD released some flexibilities as to how each CoC could conduct the count. Our focus was on a head count only to eliminate face-to-face interaction and hopefully keep everyone safe. So at the last meeting, we kind of began formulating the methodology for a head count only count. However, during the weeks, we have continued to stay closely connected with local CoCs to learn how they will be addressing the PIT count. And also we're having meetings with HUD Representative William Snow, who's been very helpful in providing updates and guidance from HUD. And then finally, we have coordinated meetings with our county public health department as the new COVID-19 restrictions are put in place in Riverside County. So we did send out that flyer that you're seeing on the slide that has all of the dates for our upcoming meetings. Please join us. There's a lot of discussion. You can provide feedback about your thoughts and how to plan for the point in time count. And then briefly, I just want to share a couple of recent updates that may influence the final decision about the unsheltered PIT count. At a recent HUD meeting with our HUD representative, we were informed that HUD's preference is that if a CoC is conducting a head-only count, that count be conducted overnight and not during the day. And so an overnight count may not be something we can comply with, but we to work on seeing what the county can do during these planning meetings and work on making a final decision. Another interesting update that we've received is of the 13 Southern California CoCs, 9 out of the 13 have decided to request an exception to HUD to not conduct a count at all. So this has changed significantly from a couple of weeks ago when the majority of the CoCs were looking at planning to conduct head count only counts. So as you can see, things are changing almost on a daily basis. And then as some of you may have seen this morning in today's news, LA County has announced that they will not be conducting a count in 2021 due to COVID-19 concerns. And so once again, we are continuing to research and really get an idea of what is happening, not only with surrounding CoCs, but also what the county can actually comply with in terms of the point in time count. And the planning meetings are a place where we provide updates to our partners. And then finally, I just want to remind you that in terms of the process, the CoC is required to submit a request for exception to HUD. So once the county makes a final decision as to how to move forward with the count, whether it's conducting a head-only count, not conducting a count at all, we will have to submit this request to HUD, which they will have to approve. And so the process is still kind of evolving. And once again, we want to make the best decision for Riverside County, our volunteers, our staff, and our clients. And so I hope this update helps get an idea of kind of where we are in terms of planning for the point in time count. So thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Laura, first of all, Jim Bullis in the chat room, is the overnight head count a requirement or a suggestion?
It is, I think it's kind of in between, but they are definitely saying that that's something that they want to see. I mean, I don't think HUD has come out and said it's required, but that is what they of the methodology that the count be conducted during overnight hours. Okay, we can submit the request to conduct a daily count, a count during the day, but HUD may not approve it.
Okay, great. And I see Gina Estrin, your hand's raised.
Good morning, Gina. Did you have a question?
Good morning. One little technical thing. By the way, on your flyer, you have the dates for January as 2020. It should be 2021.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I hope those Thursday dates are the correct ones then, because of the change in the year. And
yeah, we'll fix that. Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. And the other thing actually has to do with the nighttime count. Actually, it ideally, nighttime count would be the best opportunity to get people in place. Otherwise, you're running around chasing them during the daytime. And especially if there is unsheltered, but like in a riverbed, like I have in my area, you know, they tend to be back to their encampment at night. But there still is something to be said about people being out and about during the daytime as well. Is there a possibility that it could be approved in certain areas if they're willing to do both night and day count?
Yeah, those are all kind of logistical questions in terms of the count. We have office hours with HUD often, and we're able to ask these questions. Really, we won't know until we submit what our methodology, what we propose as our methodology, and then HUD can give us feedback and say, yes, we approve this, no, we approve, this is not approved. So those are options, definitely. We definitely want it to be uniform across the county because that will help, you know, make sure that our data is consistent and the way that it is collected is consistent. So that's a great suggestion, Gina, and we are definitely open to as much feedback from our partners as possible. Just a quick reminder that I forgot to mention, we do have a survey that we did send out to our partners asking you about your homeless outreach teams. Within that survey, there's a section where you can provide feedback and your thoughts about the count or ideas about the count. So I please encourage everyone to take a look at that survey. It's a brief two-minute survey where you can provide us with that feedback. Oh, you're muted.
Gina, you're muted. So, yeah.
Since I'm not an official member, did I get the survey? And plus I've had the power outage issues. So,
you did. Yeah. Yes, you're on our list, Gina.
Okay, good. I will double check that. And may I volunteer myself if you do go for the nighttime thing? I'm a night owl, so.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gina.
And Laura, just to clarify too, if we did the day count, we would start at 5:30 like we usually do, don't we?
Yes. Our proposal will be to do a 5:30 count, starting 5:30, 9:30, just as we have in previous years.
Because it does address some of Gina's concerns, but I know too that even by 7 o'clock, Gina's right, is, you know, you can get people moving around and all that. So
we will miss people, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we need to get out by 5:30.
Yeah. Jim, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Jim.
You know, great. This is great to hear about. And Gina made some really good points. I'm wondering regarding the youth count, if we can propose something different for the youth count because young people behaviors are different than chronic homeless.
Yes, we definitely will look at the youth count in a differently. We will propose the methodology for both the youth and the unsheltered general count as well as the unsheltered youth count will be the same. So that's why right now we're meeting together with youth providers and everyone. Once we establish what the methodology is going to be, then we can kind of split to the side and say, okay, the methodology is, you know, this is the way it has to be implemented. Now, how can we make some adjustments based on youth and their behavior during when they're homeless? So that is coming probably in early January. We'll start splitting off and doing youth meetings where we can make those decisions.
All right, thank you, Laura. Great question, Jim. Don't see any other hands raised, so there's not an action item, so we'll move on. Great work, Laura. Thank you. I know it's changing every day, so.
It is. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
4B is the CoC Standing Committee meetings, and Tanya, you're up.
All right, I will keep my comments brief just because we have talked about this, I know, at several of the standing committee meetings in addition to the last two Continuum of Care meetings that we've had. But we have two recommended motions on the agenda that have been put together as a result of feedback from Continuum of Care members, in addition to comments received from the LaSAR strategic planning community meetings that we had earlier this year prior to COVID, when life was a bit more normal. So the first motion here that staff is proposing is to approve the consolidation of the Homeless Management Information System HMIS Administrators Council and Coordinated Entry System Oversight Committee meetings, so that beginning next year, calendar year 2021, Gina, that was a good catch on the other slide. I have to give it to you. That both of those standing committees would now be merged into one. Just a brief comment regarding these two meetings. Later, we will hear from Gordon Kwong, who is the business process analyst for our HMIS team. Our department serves as the HMIS lead agency, and we are currently working with our new vendor, HMIS vendor, to integrate CES into HMIS. So both of those platforms, or side of the house, the way I like to visualize it, will now be integrated into one system. And of course, there are many different reasons for the consolidation, but I wanted to share that with both of those platforms being integrated into one system, it certainly would be nice to have one space where we can review all of that data together. So I thought I would start here, maybe with this first recommended motion, before proceeding to the second, to see if anybody has any comments, questions, or feedback. But certainly, if our chair or vice chair would like me to read or jump ahead to motion number 2, I'm happy to do that as well.
No, let's take them one by one, Tanya. So let's entertain a motion and a second first, and then we'll open up for questions or discussion. So is there a motion on 4B1?
Hi, Greg. Marcus Cannon. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Is there a second?
Greg, this is Karen from Lighthouse. I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. All right. Any discussion, questions?
Hi, this is Kimberly from CVRM. So somewhere, somehow, somebody said that the HMIS system, the platform, was changing and a new system was going to be instituted that would give us more information. The current system, we find it hard to get the reports that we need for our reporting. So that was number one. And then number two, you know, from what I remember, strategic planning said that the CES was sort of an issue. So if we already have one issue with HMIS, and then we have CES is an issue, having them combined into, I mean, does that make sense to me? I mean, it doesn't to me. So if somebody can comment on that, number one, if we're going to get a new back platform for the HMI system that will give us more data, and number two, what is happening to the controlled entry system issues that we currently have.
So Tanya, I can probably answer this, and if you want to jump in, Marcus, as well on the CES side. But so we're going to talk about the HMIS system. There is a new vendor, as Tanya said. It will be a better system. This was something we've heard over the last couple of years that needed to be fixed. CES will still remain. Basically, what this motion does, Kimberly, instead of having the two separate committee meetings, so the HMIS Administrators Council and then another committee meeting for CES, because we want to see more integration with HMIS and CES and do things more seamlessly, we felt it was important that we merge the two committees. So it's not eliminating the systems, it's just merging the committees.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. The only other thing I would add to that is that we've found that it tends to be the same folks attending all the committee meetings.
Yeah.
And so it just was a matter of efficiency to reduce the number of meetings and try to combine the content, since they ended up having mutually interdependent decisions.
Okay, as long as it's not, you know, collaborating instead of having transparency. I mean, I think combining a lot of these committees, even though it's the same folks, there's some really big issues in each of these categories. And so that's just my comment. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Kimberly. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Marcus.
Great. Thank you, sir. The only thing I would say back to Kimberly is we would love more people at the table. So if you or somebody from your agency can attend, we always want more voices.
Gina, I see your hand is raised. Gina, you need to unmute.
Gina, you're muted. But Greg, have we gone to public comment yet?
I got it. Okay.
I will. Yeah, I just I couldn't leave
Then
it.
I guess I should wait. I'm sorry, because I'm part of the public.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and take public comment on this as well now. So,
Okay.
So go ahead, Gina.
Basically, my opinion of the merging, I think makes a lot of sense. My background way back when was in database management, and the first step is to get all the information together of what is needed and then generate what the structure is in the database to supply the information that is needed. And since each of the two organizations have some slightly different twists together to work through these changes for HMIS, and the reporting would be ideal from a creative standpoint from the database.
Thank you, Gina. Appreciate those comments. So I do not see any other hands raised. So Melanie will go ahead.
Greg, we actually have a comment in the chat box.
Okay.
From Jim Bolus. Will this merger include an interagency case conferencing component?
Tanya? Marcus?
Yeah, I can speak to that. The purpose of this meeting really is more on the policies and procedures of how does the HMIS system work? How does the coordinated entry system work? This meeting is not a case conferencing level meeting, if that's what your question is, Jim.
Okay, seems to suffice. Marcus, you going to play basketball after this meeting? So.
I like this gymnasium that we built inside of Roy's so much that I just I wish I was there, you know.
Yeah. So Melanie, I think we can go ahead and call the roll.
Move on to the vote.
Item 40.
All right. Karen Roper. Karen, you might be muted.
Yes.
All right. Eva?
Yes,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
And Edna?
Yes.
Michelle?
She may have left already, so I think Hafsa, if you're on, Hafsa would be the alternate, correct?
Yes. Hafsa? Anyone from City of Riverside still on? All right, we'll move on. Tom?
Yes.
Jim Bolus?
Yes.
Kimberly from CVRM?
Abstain.
Yes.
Linda Salas?
Yes.
Becky? Ruiz?
Yes.
Karen, I have you noted as a second.
Yes, thank you.
Denise Marshall?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Casey?
Yes.
Stefan?
Yes.
Joe?
You cut out there, Melanie. Can you repeat the name again?
Oh, Joe? Laura from the hot team?
Yes.
Thank you. Angelina?
Yes.
Yes.
And Alberto? From Step Up on Second? Cordell?
Yes.
Nicole Starks?
Yes.
And Susan Larkin?
No.
Melanie, there was a question in the chat box. Do we still have a quorum with City of Riverside
Yes,
leaving?
we do.
Okay, thank you.
And Angelina and a couple others joined in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a few join.
Okay, so that motion passes. We'll go on to item B, recommended motion 4B2. Tanya.
All right, so the second motion is to oh my God, I'm sorry. My screen has been moving. So I'm sorry. The second motion is to dissolve the Housing and Sustainability and Planning Committees and allow for members of the CoC to activate ad hoc meetings as needed to administer specific tasks and projects. Just to give some background here, the Planning Committee has met regularly to update the charter, which by regulation is required to be updated at least once a year. In the last 12 months, in addition to that project, the other focus has been reviewing the county's housing action plan. And so the thought behind dissolving this committee in particular is that as similar tasks are needed, that an ad hoc group could be created and members from the continuum of care would be able to participate. The Housing and Sustainability Committee has also met to create similar resource requests. An example of that is the housing resource inventory list that was sent out earlier this year that broke down all the different housing projects that are funded through the continuum of care by supervisoral district. So again, just some examples that reflect or show that these committees have definitely made progress. There's been a lot of good work, but could it make more sense to instead activate ad hoc groups or working groups to support those specific tasks as needed? So the recommended motion is here. At this time, I'll go ahead and open it up to see if anybody has any comments or questions.
I could go ahead and get a motion first and a second, and then we'll go into discussion.
So move. Cordell.
Cordell, thank you, Cordell. And a second?
I'll second. This is Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus. All right, if you have questions or comments, both CoC members and public, raise your hand. I'm not seeing any. So Melanie will go ahead and go to a vote. Oh, never mind. Oh, wait, no, they put it down. Okay, so Melanie will go ahead and go to the vote.
All right, Karen Roper?
Yes.
Eva?
Yes.
Edna,
Yes.
Michelle or Hafsa, have either of you rejoined? Okay, Tom,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Kimberly from CVRM,
Abstain.
Brianna,
Yes.
Margaret Atkins,
Yes.
and Karen, I see your comment in the chat box. I did get you marked down. All right, Becky,
Yes.
Karen Young, Low,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Casey,
Yes.
Stefan,
Yes.
Joe,
You cut out there again, Melanie.
oh, Joe,
Yes.
Marcus, you made the seconded it, so I'm
Correct.
put that one down. Angelina,
Yes.
Yes.
Alberto, Cordell,
I made the motion. Yes.
and Kimberly Williams, I'm sorry, Nicole Starks, Marie,
Yes.
and Susan Larkin.
No.
All right, great.
Right,
Thank
great.
you. Motion passes. We'll move on to item 4C, which is the 2021 CoC meeting calendar. So this slide shows the frequency of the meetings, and then the next slide will show the actual calendar. Correct?
Correct. One more slide, Melody.
There we go. Right. And Tanya, can we get that sent out by a PDF as well, please?
Sure. Just so everyone knows, we did include it in the link with all the supporting docs.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. It's there. Thank you. I don't know if you want to add anything, Tanya, or it's pretty self-explanatory. Huh? So.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Any questions or comments from anybody? I don't see any hands raised. I'll give you about 10 seconds. Doesn't look like it. So we will move on to item 4D, the Planning Committee. Marcus, take it over.
Thank you, Greg. If we could go to the next slide.
My apologies.
I'm sorry.
Sorry to
Greg,
cut
we
you
need
off.
to vote on that.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't realize we had to vote on that. I apologize. So I guess I need a motion to accept the 2021 calendar.
I'll make the motion. This is Margaret Atkins.
Thank you, Margaret. And a second, please.
This is Casey Jackson. I'll second.
Thank you, Casey. All right, Melanie, I don't think there's any discussion. I don't see any hands, so go ahead and call the roll.
All right, Karen Roper,
Yes.
Eva,
Yes.
Edna,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Kimberly from CVRM,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Stefan,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Angelina,
Yes.
Cordell,
Yes.
Alberto, and Nicole Starks Murray,
Yes.
and Susan Larkin.
Yes.
Great, the motion passes. Thanks for catching me on that. All right, Marcus.
All right, thank you. We just wanted to bring to you a couple updates from the planning committee. This will be essentially our last planning committee update, since we're not going to have a planning committee in and of itself next year, but instead we'll have it as an ad hoc group. We had an ad hoc group to talk about the conflict of interest policy. Those volunteers will be meeting between now and our upcoming last planning committee meeting, which will be on the 15th next week. So we invite all of you, if you have examples of conflict of interest policies from other COCs that you think are useful and worthwhile, to forward those to the members of the ad hoc committee or the ad hoc group that was looking at conflict of interest. That was Michelle, Hafsa, Karen, Greg, Leonard, and Karen Younglow. So that's one update, is that group is going to be talking about conflict of interest and how do we resolve some of those issues that have made our votes challenging in years past. The CoC charter was emailed out to everyone on this call. It was also included as one of those attachments that Tanya referenced in the Google Documents link. The charter has suggested updates and revisions, so we would encourage all of you to review it and send any comments to the CoC team, because that will get discussed at next week's planning committee meeting. And it looks like someone just put that link in the chat, so thank you, CoC team. And then lastly was the policy and advocacy committee. We wanted to highlight this as a recommendation of our discussions around the charter, to have a policy and advocacy committee to focus on a couple issues. One, funding, and then also, what are the policies that are going to work? Not only, I think, historically we focused on getting people into housing, but what are policies that are going to help us work on getting people out of housing and onto the path for self-sufficiency. So this is an informational item. There's not a motion here, but wanted to bring you those updates. And if there's any questions, happy to answer those now.
Marcus, it's Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Karen.
So I just, for the benefit of the Continuum of Care members, I wanted to mention some exciting components of the Policy and Advocacy Committee to really look at how we can coordinate with the Southern California Continuum of Care Alliance, because they meet regularly. So they will, as an alliance, we can share ideas about legislative platforms, ways to look at if there are HUD policies that we want to work together to try to suggest that need to be changed for a more effective continuum. And then also collaborating with the Association of Counties, that's a state association with our county to do that, and also even the League of California Cities. So when you look at those three components,
Karen, are you still there? We lost you.
So we're getting some background noise. If you're not speaking, can you please mute your mic?
Can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay, it keeps automatically muting me out. Anyways, there will be more language in the charter that will reflect some of those components related to that committee. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you. I apologize. I know I was supposed to call on you. So thank you for that update.
Karen. Thanks, Marcus, too, as well. I really want to encourage everyone. Staff did a really great job of including the red lines on the charter updates, so that shows you the changes, and really want to encourage people, again, as Marcus said, to look over that, make any suggestions before the planning committee, because we do plan on voting on the charter updates at the next CoC meeting. So, all right. And I don't see any hands raised. So with that being said, thanks again, Marcus. Appreciate it. Get back on my screen here. So we'll go to new business now, and that would be student homelessness. Cordell Thomas.
Good morning. I guess we're still in the morning session, and it's a pleasure to be here and chat with you a little bit about student homelessness. There's a motion, and I think it actually supports what we've been trying to do as a Youth Action Board committee to explore how we can assist in this homelessness issue for our youth and young adults in college. So it's an appropriate opportunity. I have a PowerPoint. I don't know if it's a part of this, Melanie, and if we can go to the slide so I can talk through, not per se the motion itself, but to talk about why.
Sorry, Cordell, I'm trying to pull it up for you.
No worries. I can keep talking while it comes up. No big deal. And I can roll with what I have. Yeah, I think this overall article, and I will place the link to the article in the chat box. If all of you, I would hope, have a chance to look at it and read it through if you have not already done so. The state of crisis, and it's labeled Dismantling the Student Homelessness Issue in California. It was written by UCLA Center for the Transformation of Schools. And thank you very much, Melanie, as it was led out by Dr. Joseph Bishop. I think it's an appropriate article, and I will just lead into this by saying that we've sat here at home in an event, those that have a roof over their heads, and we have this conversation when I have teens at home that have been quarantined, had to graduate remotely, and are on Zoom classes on blue screens all day. We heard reports of, I think, student suicide on a Zoom class, and then a couple of other stories that have come up in the news. If we go to the next slide, it will give you an idea of what our homeless are dealing with. Not only not dealing with a space to live in, but they don't have a safe space to learn during their 6 to 8 hours a day. School meals are gone, so they have to find other ways of finding food. Dedicated staff are no longer around them. And of course, developmental support for early learning and other resources that many of these students experiencing homelessness depend on. So I think it's a really good read as to what's going on. And if we go to the next slide, we can take a look at the overall coverage in the article. They talk about policy, they talk about student perspectives. I would recommend you taking a look at the student perspectives on page 44 and looking at a portrait of what homelessness and the populations are. I'm not going to. I'm going to assume that you may have looked at the article, but I'd like to just lead you with the limited time I have with a look at the key findings. If we go to the next slide, the goal of the report was to explore the types of educational and social supports that this 269,000 that was studied, the students experiencing homelessness, may require to be successful in school and life. So it's just exploring what supports are there. And I think one of the words that resonated with me was ecosystem, and I'll revisit that term later on at additional slide. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is one of the challenges that they had in reference to this report, is the growth in the number of students experiencing homelessness. I think statistics are quite heavy when you look at more than a quarter of all people experiencing homelessness live in the state of California. This is in the United States total. 53% of all unsheltered individuals in the United States live in California, right? So that's the first challenge that they were to look at, this growth in homelessness. And if we go to the next slide, there was a second challenge that they were looking at addressing, and that was the undercounted, underserved communities of our Latinx, Black, and as well as LGBTQ students, and those identify as such. And one of the major hurdles, I put this as a quote, was one of the major hurdles to academic success for students experiencing homelessness is schools being unaware that students are actually experiencing homelessness. So it's that redundancy statement that we need to know how we can identify and address the needs of this specific group of individuals. I think there was a statistic that was out there that we found in the key findings that I'll report to you about this group of at-risk, this demographic group. So if we go to the next slide, and you know what? I forgot to start my timer, so I was giving myself 12 minutes. So someone just keep me on track here. I didn't want to go more than 10 and then take some questions on this. The key findings, though, is what I want to really talk about in this overall article, and they were based on these questions. What services are currently available to students experiencing homelessness in school systems? Number 2, what obstacles do students face when seeking services? And number 3, how could school systems better serve students experiencing homelessness? And I think what we have is a really good example on one of the outcomes and measures of success. Moreno Valley Unified School District is one of our LEAs, or local educational agencies, has figured a way. They have, I think, 4,846 identified homeless youth, and they have been able to make the gap smaller between those who are homeless graduation rates versus those that have homes. So the non-homeless are at 92% at graduation rates, and the homeless are at 90% graduation rates in Moreno Valley Unified School District. So it tells us that we have the mechanism in place through their McKinney-Vento funding that they've used in an appropriate way, and I do believe they have a community center out there that's helping to address those specific issues also. So we do have those resources at hand that we can definitely work with. If you can go to the next slide, please. Key finding number 6, and you're going to wonder why I'm starting with 6, right? Key finding number 6 is what calls out to the continuum of care. It's talking to you and me, right? Community-based organizations and nonprofits provide a critical function as a part of, and there's that word, ecosystem of support for students, and can get out resources to families quickly. That's why you exist. That's why we are here. And that's why I think this was an appropriate motion to place for our Youth Advisory Committee and our Youth Action Board to take on in studying this issue. So I started out with 6, and I will address 6 at the end of this presentation. If we can go to number 1, though, the next slide. Current professional capacity to support students impacted by homelessness is inadequate. Comprehensive, targeted, and coordinated training is needed. They found that the responsibility of our homeless liaisons of coordinating services for homeless students has been placed on one single staff member. And I think we need, they actually indicate in there that we need to integrate training. Example, counselors need to provide additional services and the like. You can go on to number 2. Finding number 2 is homeless liaisons are struggling to effectively respond to growing needs in their community, requiring more resources and staffing. My position is a 9.5-month position. This limits the amount of time I work with our McKinney-Vento families. I believe my work requires additional time. 9.5 months out of 12 months a year is not enough time. Another quote that was interesting to me was, I feel like I'm on call 24/7. It's like I'm an ER doctor. So it shows that these liaisons are struggling. It may be one area that we can look in assisting them with from a funding standpoint. It's just a matter of having this conversation. If we can go to key finding number 3. Is the prevalence of Latinx and Black youth experiencing homelessness requires more racially and culturally responsive strategies in education, practice, and the like. We found that this community experiencing homelessness are almost twice as likely to be suspended, miss extended period of school, and absenteeism, lower graduation rates by 16%, and then, of course, less readiness for the than their non-homeless peers. So this is a big issue. It's a critical issue, one that could be a part of our suggested area of study and support. Number 4, our next slide would talk more so about these students are experiencing homelessness are often overlooked or misunderstood in school settings, which can result in negative experiences. One student talks about his junior year. He talks about he was treated badly by students. He was dealing with bullying issues. He was dealing with issues at home. He didn't have a home to go to. He had to move out of schools because of the bullying he got. And then, of course, he tried to re-enroll because of his absenteeism, and they wouldn't let him in. After this happened 2 or 3 times, and he was unenrolled for the final time, he just decided about forgetting school and just getting his GED instead. So these are relevant issues as we're talking about students who are misunderstood, not identified. Hey, I was talking to a teacher in Moreno Valley Unified School District, and they said, you know, they didn't realize communication of foster youth in their classrooms. You know, that foster youth misses a meeting with their biological family, and guess what happens? They have a blow up in the school room, and it's not handled in a way that may be appropriate because it's not expected. Number 5, we know we need to identify students, but sometimes the students are not identified because it's one person trying to identify versus having a whole system put in place. And that's what we're trying to do, is to develop a system that supports those homeless liaisons in the school districts and makes it more a reality that we can create an environment, a safety net that none of them fall through. Number 6 is students experiencing homelessness are often overlooked or misunderstood in school settings, which can result in negative educational experiences. And that, I guess, would be a restatement of the same. I think number 7, which is my last one out there, would be bookends of education, early education. The bookends, basically surrounding a student from cradle to college, is really not there. I think the thing that was relevant to me is that the types of challenges, these challenges facing students experiencing homelessness may vary considerably depending on their age and the type of educational institutions. 1 in 5 college students in the community college district are homeless. 1 in 10 in our Cal State system are homeless, and 1 in 20 in our UC systems are homeless. This is something that needs to be addressed early on. The sooner we can begin to fill in the empty areas, we'll be able to sustain and support these young people, not only through high school, but also into college. I don't know what my next slide was up there, but if we can go to the next ones. This is where it matters, and this is where I call out to you in reference to the motion, is community-based organizations and nonprofits provide the critical function as a part of this ecosystem, right? And I'll do a quote from a CEO of a nonprofit. Could be any one of you guys that are out there. I'm a CEO of a nonprofit, and we can turn on a dime to get the resources out. And so I would say that the way to get directly to the community is through the community-based organizations that collaborate with school districts and the county. I think you guys are it. This study is calling out to you guys. I'm putting on the close now. This is my sales pitch. Let's do this. We are the organization to take this on for Riverside County. We have a template in the Moreno Valley Unified School District that is already winning over with a community center and having graduation rates of homeless youth at 90%. I think this is what matters. This is why it matters. I would hope that you would support the motion based on this study. I would ask you to read it through yourself, the stories from the student perspective, as well as from nonprofits, and as well just the statistics are relevant. That's all I have. I don't want to take much more of your time. I know I was given 10 to 15 minutes. I hope it was good for you, and I hope it helps you identify the need for us to move forward with this motion.
Thank you, Cordell. It was worth every minute. This is a really critical issue. We know that HUD and other funding sources place emphasis on youth funding, but we tend to forget about the school homelessness. And I'll just say I've been working with our McKinney-Vento people out here in the Valley, and they're overstretched and overworked and often are assigned assignments that have nothing to do with what their job title is supposed to be doing. And so not to give any editorial encouragement on what we should do with this motion, but I think you can read how I feel. So I would entertain a motion to pursue this. I think, Cordell, since you led, you want to make the motion?
So move. Thank you.
I take a second.
A second, Jim Bolus.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. I know this is an important issue to you too, Jim. Thank you for all you do for the youth. So I don't see any questions or comments. As I said, this is pretty much a no-brainer. So, Cordell, my only question would be, as you move forward, I would assume you would put out a call for those who want to be involved in any kind of planning or committee meetings, correct?
You know what? I appreciate you saying that, Greg. Yes, in fact, our new directive as an events-driven organization, we have a home staging for former foster youth tomorrow. We are dealing with working with Laura with a point in time count. We have a great group of individuals that are supporting this. So yes, I think I would agree.
Okay, sounds good. And Jim, I see you've raised your hand.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Greg and Cordell. That was fantastic. And I'm glad that you presented on that. I really, this is tantamount to effectively providing services to youth, because I think a lot of times we tend to silo. And we silo the school youth and the street-based youth and the non-school youth. And I think this sort of just brings the light to that. So I'm really glad that you brought this up.
Great comments, James. Thank you. Just want to check the comment box. Okay. All righty. And seeing no further discussion, Melanie, let's go ahead and call the roll.
All right. Karen Roper.
Yes.
Eva.
Yes.
Edna.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Kimberly McKinney.
Yes.
Brianna. Brianna, are you still there? Moving on, Margaret.
Yes.
Hi, Linda. I see in the chat box you're here. Go ahead and give me your vote for that.
Yes. Yes, from Linda Krupa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've also updated for your attendance.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Becky.
Yes.
Karen Young Low.
Yes.
Denise.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Casey.
Yes.
Stefan.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
Angelina.
Yes.
Nicole Starks.
Yes.
And last but not least, Susan Larkin.
Yes.
All right, Cordell, Greg, back to you.
Yep, thank you, Melanie. And that motion passes. Moving on to item 5B, Family Promise of Riverside, and I believe a short presentation by Vicki Botich, correct? I hope I'm not butchering your name.
Hi, this is Reverend Matt Harris-Gloyer. I'm Vice President of Family Promise. I would love to give the presentation today, if that's all right with you all.
Sure.
Great, thanks. I believe Vicki is also on the line here too. And we have a presentation. Great, that's coming up right there. So Family Promise is a leading national nonprofit that's addressing family homelessness. A quick word about me is that I am a pastor of a church here in Riverside, First Christian Church, which is on the corner of Harupa and Brockton. And I just want to take a quick moment to recognize Mr. Cordell Thomas. Thank you so much for your presentation. You really got at the heart of what I think Family Promise is here to be helping with. In particular, I want to point out, thank you so much for mentioning the challenges that our LGBTQ plus neighbors have, and also Latinx and Black youth who are more likely to experience homelessness, and we need more racially and culturally sensitive responses. So really appreciate those points and everything that you gave. So thank you so much. Family Promise, I think, fits in really nicely as the next piece as a nonprofit that is in formation. Could I have the next slide, please?
Yep.
There we go. That's it. So there's my face there, and there's Vicky's. Everyone who is on this board are volunteers. We're not paid staff. We do this because we care and because we want to help our community. Next slide, please. Family Promise exists to house children and their families. So we start with kids and whoever they bring with them. And what is Family Promise? It is a national organization founded in the 80s. There are over 200 affiliates in 43 states, and several are here in California, Orange County, San Gabriel, South Bay, Verdugas, Yucaipa. Each affiliate is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And the success rate across the country is 88% secure housing within 9 weeks. So that's, when I first heard about this a couple of years ago, that was a surprising statistic, but it is true. And the average length of stay for a family is 63 days. Next slide, please. So Family Promise provides hospitality, shelter, meals, supportive services, and stabilization for children and their families who are experiencing homelessness. Thank you. For the next slide. And one of the ways that we like to talk about it is that we coordinate compassion. We help our communities coordinate the compassion to address the root causes of family homelessness, which you all know they are extensive. There are a variety of reasons why folks end up experiencing homelessness. And Family Promise empowers families towards economic stability while using existing community resources. We're not here to recreate the wheel, but just to connect resources that are already, connecting resources that are already in existence. And that's about holistic solutions, prevention, shelter, stabilization. Next slide, please. So how does it work? The model works within faith communities and community centers. So a family will start off at one particular faith community or community center on a Sunday morning, set up around 6 p.m. Whoever is the host site provides meals, some social time, and sets up the space. On Monday morning, kids go to school. Parents or families go to jobs or to the day center. And then in the evening time, they come back to the host site and have meal and have social time. And they do that for a week at a time at that particular host site. So host sites are doing this for 1 week at a time. And then on Saturday evening, there's a tear down of the space, and then it all moves to the next host site. Have the next slide, please. So rotating weekly through about 14 host sites, and beginning of the night, that's Sunday, and then the end of the week is Sunday morning, and guests are transported to the next location. So every affiliate has some kind of transportation set up, and volunteers from each host site, they clean and store the beds, the linen, all of things to get ready to make a space livable. The next slide, please. So we covered this one. One last point that I want to mention is that at the day center, where families go, is that the adults work with a caseworker on stabilization. So that can mean a variety of things, whatever that person needs, whether they're working on looking for jobs or looking for more stable housing, or whether they're getting some job training. Whatever it is that they need, there is a caseworker who helps them with that while they're at the day center. Have the next slide, please. So typical program components is that there's a full-time director who coordinates services, host sites, and volunteers. There's this part-time case manager who helps the families secure resources. The day center is a base to look for jobs, connect to social services, and also provides a stable address while these families are in transition. And then also there's transportation, which gets folks to their job, to school, and to the host sites. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is our contact information, fpofriverside@gmail, fpofriverside@gmail. I'll type it into the chat box in a minute. And we're also on Facebook. And there's a couple of phone numbers there of some of our board persons who would love to hear from you. Right now, we are a 501c. We are in formation. We have not yet gotten our 501c3, but we have been working through the system. As you can imagine, the federal government is a little slower to respond because of everything that's happening. I think we did we skip a couple of slides? There was a, could you go to the slide that says phased COVID opening? Because that's an important. There you go. Great. Thank you so much. So as you all know, COVID is really changing up the typical model, which is what I just described, the rotation 1 week at a time at a particular host site. And so we're looking at a phased opening. The first one, which is where we are currently at, is that we're helping with referrals. So we are already receiving requests for families who are in need, who are homeless. And so we're helping to coordinate and to communicate with shelters and resources. Phase 2 is we're going to manage a handful of host sites. So we'll just have a few host sites that will be able to be available to host one family per host site for an extended period of time. So instead of doing the traditional model of 1 week at a time, it will be multiple weeks at a time at the same location. We found that that will be a better solution at this time during COVID. And at this time, we're not looking to use of the day center or the because of COVID restrictions. And then eventually, once COVID calms down a bit and we get vaccine and everything, we'll be able to manage 6 or more host sites and probably continuing on this very alternative version of one family per host site for extended stays. And the executive director and case manager will coordinate services, volunteers, and so forth. And that is the phase system that we've worked through. Got the next slide, which is titled Urgency. Thank you. As we all know, COVID disproportionately harms underserved youth and families. We know that there is really a lack of affordable housing, which is contributing to the financial pressures of families in Riverside County. And families are in need of food assistance, and that's increasing and expecting increased need for emergency housing right now and in 2021. Next slide, please. So we work with the National Organization of Family Promise. We are a local affiliate. As I said, we're in development. We're seeking out partners like the CoC, and we're also seeking out funding. Kind of the next slide, please. Great, thank you. This is a little snapshot of funding. We're nearly at one of our goals, which is 50% of the first year of operational budget. So we're close to being able to open. So really appreciate any support from CoC, including partnership and referrals and letters of support. So thank you for that one. We do have a network already of 60, more than 60 community members and multiple places of faith. Have the next slide. Okay, great. Yep, and that's the conclusion. So I want to be sure if there are any questions. I know this is a quick and fast version of our presentation, but is there anything that you all would like to know about what Family Promise is or what we're asking for?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Great presentation. So Margaret Atkins asked, and you kind of addressed it in the COVID world, but as far as kids not attending school, where would they be during the day? If the day center is probably not open either, correct? So.
Yeah, great question. They would be at the host site.
Okay. Okay. And then I see Hafsa, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I do. Hi, Pastor Matt. We've had a couple of conversations. I want to say thank you so much for the work that you've done in the city of Riverside. It's more so, not so much of a question, but sort of supporting Family Promise. The Office of Homeless Solutions in the city of Riverside definitely sees the need, and we appreciate you reaching out to the CoC. I would encourage our CoC and our county HAP funds to maybe potentially take a look at how we could service with the Big 13. You know, we get these youth funds, and unfortunately, Cordell, I missed your presentation. I'll be, circling back with you, but this is a really good opportunity for us to look at how we could look at some state funding that's set aside for youth to potentially do a regional response. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I'm happy to work together and collaborate with the county and CoC on these potential funds. So thank you.
Great, thanks for that support, Hafsa. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Hafsa. Jim, you have your hand raised. Was that from the last time or?
Sorry, yeah, it was from the last time. I'm sorry.
I thought so. Matt, I know it's different because of COVID, but say there wasn't COVID right now. Are these one family per host sites, or it could be multi-families per host site?
Great question. In pre-COVID world, there would be multiple families at one host site, and they would travel together from host site to host site, switching every week.
Great. And then my other question would be at the day center, obviously, CalFresh, Medi-Cal, et cetera, are you working with like workforce development at all for, employment opportunities?
That's a great question. I can find that answer out for you.
And I'm not seeing any other hands raised. And then I guess my other question, Matt, would be too, is your areas of operation, is it the entire county or Riverside City or?
Yeah, great question. Right now, we would prefer to focus on Riverside City. That's where all of the board members live or work, and that's the area that we know best. So that's where we would start.
And would there be the potential, in the future to scale that up?
I would love to see that. Yeah.
It all comes down to money, I know. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right. All right, great. Well, great presentation, Matt. We look forward to you all staying. I know Vicky's been part of our meetings for a few times now, and look forward to you, becoming a part of the CoC permanently. So appreciate the work.
Great.
So
thank you for that invitation. Love to do it.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 6, standing items, the Board of Governance update. Melanie, I got rid of my thing. So first of all, we want to, I think most of you know, if you were attended or visited the Board of Governance meeting, we have 3 new members. Catherine Hansen, she's from the University of California, Riverside. That's a public seat, and that filled a higher educational seat that we needed to fill to HUD, and really rounds out the diversity of the board. Monique Guerrero, she's formerly homeless youth representative. Just her initial comments in the first Board of Governance meeting was extremely impressed. And then Nicole Daly brings a really wealth of experience from the city of Lake Elsinore. It's great to have another public seat from one of our local cities. Update on the LaSAR strategic plan. This is actually my 3rd Zoom meeting today, sorry, but on the LaSAR strategic plan, I believe, Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, we're still, they're finalizing their final proposal for the needs and gaps analysis, and will get back with us relatively soon, correct?
That is correct. We have our contracts team working with LaSAR and finalizing the scope of work.
Okay, perfect. All right. And then the Homeless Healthcare Ad Hoc Committee, we discussed this quite at length on our last meeting. There's a link to the wellness questionnaire, and Tanya and I will be having further discussions on how we roll this out in a limited pilot program right after the holidays are over. So, and not seeing any hands for questions or comments. So we will move on to item 6B, which is the, yeah.
I had the hand up just for that help. Just real quick, want to say that we so appreciate it that you guys are working on that health ad hoc committee. And as I've mentioned before, we would love to work with you, the city of Riverside, with our new projects, with our nurse outreach program, our recuperative care, and Catherine Hansen herself knows about the work we're doing with UCR. So we want to work together with you guys on this. So let's, we'd be happy to be part of the pilot and would be happy for the city to feel included in this process. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good, Hudson.
Can I? Yeah, I just wanted to add some comments. As Greg mentioned, right now the focus has been on finalizing that wellness questionnaire survey, and we will be sharing the link so that all of you can review the questions that have been put together, provide feedback. In addition, I think this kind of ties into the LaSAR strategic plan. There will be an opportunity there for Continuum of Care members, which include all of our cities and participating agencies, to provide feedback that could very well focus on the ensuring that there is a secure path so that individuals who are exiting our hospital systems are directly connected to our homeless delivery system. I truly, and I had made a note and was just not quick enough, did want to acknowledge the city of Riverside for continuing to share the importance of ensuring that the county has a discharge plan. This was a major focus during the county's homeless action plan, and also came up during our strategic planning. So as we move into phase 2, HAFSA and all of our other partners know that we will absolutely be seeking you out for feedback on next steps. So thank you so much. I just wanted to put that out there because I know there's a lot of interest in this subject, and there should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Haas, I still see your hand raised. I don't know if you had something additional, or it's just still up. So.
Oh no, it's just hard to raise it after. Thanks, Greg.
Appreciate it. All right, so item 6B, CoC lead agency update, Tanya.
All right, and I'm actually going to share this piece with Natalis. Natalis, if you're on, I'll go ahead and let you take A and B, and I'll take number C, or letter C.
Hello, good morning, everyone. And Melanie, would you put the PowerPoint slide on? Yeah, wonderful. So, first, my name is Natalis. I'm the Admin Services Officer for the Continuum of Care team in HHPWS department. And then I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone, so especially those entities that have participated in our Emergency Operations Center, the EOC mass care and shelter operations. And they so the entities such as the Community Actions Partnership, the CAP team, the Continuum of Care team, and the Housing Authority, the Riverside University Health System, and the Department of Public Social Services, DPSS, and also all the homeless shelter and service providers. We have all come together since March earlier this year, seems like so long ago. And we have, the county has quickly put together the EOC, Emergency Operations Center. And then we have, and then along the way, we have some of the highlights are here on the slides. And we have installed a hand washing station at the Santa Ana Riverbed. And then we have also been conducting our weekly conference calls for all the service providers and cities to come together to exchange information, how to best serve our communities. And average attendance is 25 representatives from 12 agencies. And then we have also provided over $25,000 worth of emergency food, supplies, and masks to 12 homeless service providers and shelters. And then, so I'm also very proud to be involved with the meal delivery for the Project Room Key, and because we have placed a lot of clients in hotels and motels, and they need food. Yeah, so we have these numbers keep coming up. So every week we're delivering about 2,500 to 3,000 meals per week. So this number has already gone up. I'm sure that by now it will be over 200,000 meals delivered by our CAP team, and also with IEHP, the Inland Empire Health Plan, and then together we have been delivering meals to our clients in the hotels and motels. So that would be my piece.
Thank you, Natalis. Melanie, can you move over to the next slide? We really wanted to highlight these two programs to show the coordination that is being facilitated through our Continuum of Care staff, but of course in partnership with all of you. So we thank you for your support. One of the other programs that we have been supporting is the General Assistance Emergency Shelter Pilot Program. This initiative is led by the Department of Public Social Services. Some of you may be familiar with the General Assistance Program. These are benefits that are provided to individuals who are experiencing homelessness, are unsheltered, and similar to cash aid, would receive cash assistance or financial assistance to help them with a housing allowance. Unfortunately, that housing allowance is very limited. It's about $250, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, but definitely around that number. And since November 9th, in an effort to create a path so that individuals applying for those benefits, because we know $250 will maybe get you, a few days in a hotel, and the goal is really to link people into bridge housing and transition them into permanent housing. The Continuum of Care has partnered with DPSS in addition to our CES lead agency, Behavioral Health, and our emergency shelter providers. So kudos to Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, Path of Life, Valley Restart, Martha's Village and Kitchen, Operation Safe House, and hopefully I said Valley Restart, Martha's Village. Hope I got everybody, but right, all of our emergency shelters who have been involved in many planning calls, so that we're very proud to say there is currently a path so that when individuals go into DPSS or connect with a DPSS benefits counselor and state that they are experiencing homelessness, they are connected now directly to an emergency shelter, and a bed reservation is made. I want to call it a reservation is made right there on the spot. So we're truly excited about this partnership, and again, I think does a great job at reflecting the great coordination, regional coordination that is going on throughout Riverside County. The only other item that we wanted to share actually too, and I know we're running out of time, is that we still do not have any new news on the 2020 HUD CoC NOFA. As we understand it today, it is very, very likely that HUD will renew all 2019 projects for 2020, so we'll continue to keep you posted. The other news, there's been some discussion in the chat box, and I think Hafsa mentioned it, is that the state recently released the application for the second round of HAP funding. Those are additional homeless assistance dollars. During the last BOG meeting, the Board of Governance approved the agencies that are going to be receiving funds for that program. And so we are very excited about including both our CoC chair and vice chair in a planning meeting with both the city of Riverside and the county to discuss the coordination of those funds. So that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tanya. Not seeing any hands or any questions. We'll move on to Marcus for CES lead report.
Thank you, Greg. If we could have the next slide, please. If not, I can share my. There we go. Perfect. So just a brief update. We wanted you to see our report. It lists the number of outstanding home connections. These are referrals that we make for housing. I think the biggest encouragement I would have there for all of our agencies is that when we send out a referral for housing, we copy the agency that's receiving the referral, but we also copy the navigator or case manager who initially. Are you guys getting? I don't know if maybe anybody can mute themselves. We copy the case manager of who initially submitted this family. And the reason we do that is so both the receiving agency as well as the submitting agency or the case managing agency are aware that the referral has gone out. And as soon as you see that referral go out, we would encourage both the recipient agency as well as the case management agency to contact one another to develop a path to coordinate care for that resident and help get them leased up. We tend to receive a fair number of calls back to our office from either the receiving agency saying, I can't reach the case manager, or case manager saying, hey, I haven't been able to reach the receiving agency. And we're happy to take those calls if you truly can't reach one another, but the point of copying everybody from the start is to try to decrease that need for back and forth. Otherwise, I'll allow you to review these numbers. I don't think anything here is drastically different over previous months. We've started to see some uptick in call volume again, and we assume that that's related again to sort of increasing COVID cases and the challenges of the holidays. But otherwise, most things remain pretty similar as previous months' reports. Happy to answer any questions if I can.
Get off mute. Anybody have any questions? Doesn't look like that. Thank you, Marcus, very much. Appreciate the work. So,
yep, absolutely.
All right, so item 6D, HMIS lead update, and I guess Gordon will be presenting.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone. Hope y'all can hear me. It is good to see your faces and to see people joining this meeting. My name is Gordon. I am the HMIS lead for HHPWS CoC. And this morning, I'll be providing you an update on the bid focus transition from the client track system that we are using. Before that, though, I'd like to give a short, and I know we are getting close to closing time here, to give a brief update on the HMIS statistics. So currently, we have served from July 1st to November 30th, 5,062 clients. And if you would take a look at your chat window, Tanya has so graciously and conveniently provided a link to the Google Docs. And in it, you will find a report that is called the CoC staff report. And in it, you actually have a breakdown of the number of clients served, as well as their demographics, such as by race, by gender, and as well as by the program type that they've been served. So, for example, emergency shelter, street outreach, services only, and so on and so forth. So yeah, please definitely check that out. It is a report packed full of useful information, and includes the updates and the screenshot that you saw earlier, which Marcus presented, which is the CS statistics as well. All right, so moving on, if we can move to the next slide, this will be the update regarding the transition and migration from ClientTrack to BitFocus. So I'm going to go over just a high-level overview of the different phases, that we have discussed with BitFocus, our new vendor, and how that comes into play. So, for example, the planning and coordination, that consists of the kickoff meeting, some project management tools, and more importantly, we met with the BitFocus team. We met with some of their subject matter experts, such as their data and migration expert, their project management expert, their training expert, and their coordinator as well. So this happened back in October. And then after that, we will be moving on to the training phase, which consists of training not only for individuals such as myself, the HMIS lead, and the system administrators, which is part of the HMIS team. It will consist of training for the end users, such as yourselves, as well as the agency managers, and training on data analysis. So after that part is completed, and please note that some of the different phases, such as planning, coordination, training, configuration, and migration, some of those will have bits of overlap. So not all of them is clean cut, where one ends absolutely and the other one begins. And then moving on to the configuration phase, we have areas where we review the inventory, we review the configuration of the BitFocus system, tailoring it to suit our needs, as well as the standard features that they offer. And we have also what they call the user testing or user acceptance testing, which will be testing the system with the sample data that we've uploaded to BitFocus to test the functions and features. And this is one of the first phases of testing. And it is also in the configuration phase where we will be taking a look at and working with the coordinated entry system. And here, this is where we'll most likely be bringing in Marcus Cannon, as well as Chris Salazar for their expertise in the CES system. And one of the areas that Tanya has mentioned earlier is that unlike the CS system that is separate from the ClientTrack system that we're using now, the CS system will be integrated into the HMIS or integrated into the BitFocus software that will be transitioning to, and this is called the Clarity system. And what this does is, based on how it's explained, to us, it is a system where individuals will be able to have bed reservations. They said that they will be able to enter clients' information into the system without necessarily having to, enroll the client into a program. But should that client, qualify for be enrolled in a program and receive homeless services, they can be then enrolled in a later time. So a lot of the processes right now that are separate on the CES side and the HMIS side will be integrated, together. So finally, we have the migration phase, and what that will consist of is they would be taking a look at the requirements of the migration of the data and the projects. We'll be working with several subject matter experts in the BitFocus team. We'll be analyzing the capabilities of our current system, which is ClientTrack, and how much data we're able to export and transition to the new system. It is here where, after analyzing our system, their requirements, and figuring out what they need, BitFocus is going to be able to come up with a more accurate timeline as far as how long the transition process will actually take. And again, for this final phase, we'll have another round of testing, the system, and to make sure that it is working not only properly, but it is configured the way that we would want to. And if we can go to the next slide. So dates and support. So essentially, the contract execution is going to be scheduled on January 1st, 2021. And we've actually already have established dates and meetings with the BitFocus team with their distinct subject matter experts for different days to work with them to provide them with information and have them, give us assignments on what they would need from us. So that those dates have been scheduled. And one of the things that I want to stress, is that the support for the current system, ClientTrack, will not cease until we fully transition. So for example, all of the system that you're using now and the features and so forth will remain the same. So that will not be taken away. It is until that we believe and we feel that the new transition has taken place in a way that is fully satisfactory, that's when we will migrate to the new system and discontinue ClientTrack. But in the meantime, while this transitioning process is happening, all the features and services and the support from ClientTrack will remain the same. All right, and that will conclude my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Gordon, and your team done an amazing job over this past year trying to get this implemented. So on a quick timeline. So any questions or comments? It's going to be nice to have integrated and more thoughtful data, that's for sure. You all know I'm a data geek. So all right, seeing no hands, we'll move down to item 7, consent items. I believe, Tanya, correct me if they're wrong, all of this is contained pretty much in the Google documents. Again, another great report. I'm loving it. And I did see on the Google Docs too that the committee reports were there as well. So thanks to the chairs of those committees. No new voting members right now. Again, if any of you know anybody that should be part of this CoC, that's one of mine and Karen's goal is to kind of expand, especially into the healthcare field. So working, I know I have somebody, I think I have Janet on from Anthem on the call that is interested in finding out more about the CoC. We're noticing that the healthcare industry is getting much more involved in homelessness and housing, which is a great thing. So
Right.
add something.
Yeah, there was a correction on the agenda and we included it in the PowerPoint. We actually do have a new voting member, so we want to welcome Jim Bolas.
I saw that on the, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. I apologize, Jim, not to leave you out, but for those of you who don't know, Jim Bolas is a new voting member. He's with the CV Coalition, Coachella Valley Coalition for Homeless Youth. I think I met Jim a little over a year ago. His passion for youth homelessness issues is bar none. And brings a wealth of experience and training and stuff. So I'm really happy he's on the CoC. So thank you for catching that, Tanya. And then we did have a request for a letter of support. That was from the Housing Authority for the Project Home Key application for Ivy Palms. I'll have an update on that at the next meeting. Other than that, and then the annual performance report, that's in the docs too as well, isn't it, Tanya? Yes, thank you. So and that's for the Lighthouse. And then any call for agenda items. If I don't see any hands raised or in the chat, obviously, you can get a hold of the amazing team at CoC. And with that, we do have a couple announcements. Want to scroll down, Melanie, on the thing.
To the next slide, Melody.
Yeah, it's like the project room key, right?
There we go. So Marcus Dillard is on the line. We just wanted to highlight 229 individuals have been placed into permanent housing. So that has increased since this slide was prepared this week. Marcus, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that. You guys are doing great work over there. And Marcus Dillard with the Housing Authority, I should have emphasized that. He might have had to log off.
Yeah, I want to add to that, Tanya, is the percentage of placements is absolutely amazing. This county should be really, really pleased at the permanent placement from Project Room Key. From what I understand, we're far exceeding many, many other jurisdictions. And a huge shout out to Marcus and his team. The minute the minute I email or call, he is right on it, getting people housed. And so really appreciate that as well. And then we've got, is this a new webinar coming up, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we hope you can join us December 17th. We will be emailing out the flyer. Thank you, Melanie Wilson, for putting this together. We will be featuring Operation Safe House and hearing from the A Sense of Home program, which Cordell from United Way spoke about earlier.
Yeah, Melanie, if you want to go to the next slide. I believe this came out this morning, the notice for Save the Date. Unfortunately, we don't get to gather this year, which is a shame because it's such a wonderful night, an event to celebrate and honor our homeless on Memorial Day, or Homeless Memorial Day. So save the date for that, for the virtual thing. And then I have on here, Tanya, the EFSP phase, I think it's 38, isn't it? Not 28?
It is 38, another typo. So the RFA is being released today. The Emergency Food and Shelter Program provides both housing and food assistance. So if we have any interested vendors who would like to apply, the application process is going to be open through January 8th, and there will be a training for any new applicants. So if it's your first time applying for EFSP funds, we will be holding a virtual training for you. So an official announcement will go out to all of our CoC members.
Great, thank you, Tanya. With that, seeing no other hands raised, our next CoC meeting will be Wednesday, February 24th, 2021. It says 2020 on the slides. We do not want to repeat 2020 again, staff. I love the movie Groundhog Day, but I don't ever want to watch it again, to tell you the truth. So I want to wish everybody, I see Melanie or somebody.
Yes,
Melanie,
Greg, I have one other announcement that I wanted to share. We received, let me pull it up here. Of course, it does not want to cooperate. Here we go. This was shared with us and we wanted to share with the group. I don't know, can you see it here?
Yes, we can.
There we go.
and I think it came out by email, didn't it, Melanie, as well?
It may have. I believe I may have sent it out, but we did want to address it here as well, just to announce to anyone the Parenting During a Pandemic webinar.
Yeah, thank you to Kimberly from Coachella Valley Rescue Mission shared this with us and thought it would be a good opportunity for our partners. If you have any participants or any staff that could benefit from this, let's make sure we get them enrolled.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. I want to just say too, Melanie, I thought it was going to be impossible to fill Tiffany's shoes. You're doing an amazing job, an absolutely amazing job. So
thank you, Greg.
That. All right. Happy holidays to everybody. Great meeting. Thank you all so much. So stay safe.
Thank you. And thank you to our chair, Greg, and our vice chair, Karen. You guys, I know there's so much planning that go behind these meetings. So we just want to take time to acknowledge them for working with staff and helping us prepare the agenda and coordinating with all the different speakers. You guys have a good one. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.